Hey there everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist and welcome back to my channel. Those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a writer working my first books for publication. And on my channel, I like to talk about what I consider to be the heart of writing. That's the characters. And the heart of the characters is their psychology. So that's the angle I like to take with pretty much everything I talk about on my channel. So it's been about 2 weeks since my last video. Those of you that have been here a while know that my husband has had several surgeries to remove cancer. So good news is we have the final surgery scheduled. That's going to be December 15th. So that week you guys will probably not see too much of me, but I'll try to at least get one video up for you guys. So once that is done, he will be able to return to work, and then my life will more or less go back to normal. Here's hoping. But for today, I wanted to talk about something that I think is kind of interesting, and that is the prospect of slice of life fiction. So those of you who read contemporary are probably like, well, you know, we read that all the time. I don't actually read contemporary. It just doesn't do anything for me. So what I'm talking about is slice of life within like a fantasy genre or a sci-fi genre. So the reason I bring this up is I find that this is actually the kind of fiction that I really love in like fan fiction. So when I do fan fiction of like, say, Lord of the Rings or Dragon Ball or anything like that, my favorite is actually slice of life. And the reason is because slice of life is usually much more character centered. So there is some plot still, because you have to have a plot of some sort. But it is much more focused, instead of what the characters doing, just the characters, what I like to call the characters being. They're just kind of hanging out and kind of doing their own thing. So I just wanted to kind of just have a kind of open discussion about slice of life within another genre. Because like I said, I think contemporary is kind of slice of life, not always, but so I wanted to talk about it within different genres. And since my preference is fantasy, that's going to be my frame of reference. But if you guys want to talk about like it within mystery or anything like that, by all means. So the reason I actually wanted to talk about this topic was a conversation on Twitter, and for the life of me, I have looked for the tweet and I cannot find the original tweet, but someone essentially posted, what about a book on the characters that the hero in a fantasy quest helps and encounters throughout their journey, but not focusing on the hero, focusing on the side characters and what the hero's quest does for their life. And I'm like, that sounds freaking fascinating. Because usually in fantasy, we get introduced to side characters, but we don't spend a whole lot of time with them. And so we're more focused on the hero and the side character and his kind of posse. But I think we do kind of keep those other characters in the back of our mind. So that's kind of what I want to talk about here, is what makes slice of life interesting within the fantasy genre. So that's one aspect that I think makes it interesting, is what happens to all the characters that we don't spend a lot of time with. You know, they're obviously still there. They have lives of their own. But how does all this stuff that's going on with the hero impact them? How does it change their lives? So that's kind of what I'm talking about here. Think about the characters that they come in and out of the story, and they may or may not become relevant later, but think about what is the impact that the hero's quest has on them. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it kind of a little bit of both? I tend to think that's probably where it kind of falls. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, and is probably my favorite to explore in fan fiction, is you get to take these characters that usually have either superpowers or strength or, you know, something like that, and you get to put them in a scenario where they don't have to do any of that. Like, one of my favorite things to explore is how people that have like super strength or powers or whatever, how do they do like everyday stuff? Like in some of my Dragon Ball fan fiction, I bring this up, that it can become kind of a problem when, like, say, Gohan or his brother are at school, because they have this immense amount of strength, but they have to interact with people on a regular basis. And you kind of have to watch how much strength you use, but to them, it feels normal. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, I think a lot of times when we get caught up in people that are, say, in, you know, all these, again, end of the world kind of adventures, you know, we have to prevent the earth from blowing up, or, you know, whatever. We don't get a lot of time to really see them just interact in what I would call regular roles. So, you know, you have the role of the hero, you know, his job is to, you know, go protect the planet or whatever. But what about when he just has to be a father, or has to be a husband, or has to be a best friend? How does he act then? And I think that's really fun to play with, because generally the reason we love heroes isn't necessarily because they have super strength, although that might be one aspect of it. It's usually because we like something about their personality. So for me, I'll use Dragon Ball for example. I love Goku because he is a country bumpkin. And I just think that's awesome, because I don't really see that a lot. So I mean, he's not stupid, but he is uneducated for the most part. He knows how to read, he knows how to write, but you know, he doesn't understand all the fancy physics and things like that. He just wants to hang out on his mountain and eat and fight people for fun. That's what he likes to do. So I like to put that personality in a scenario where he's like just playing with his kids or spending the afternoon with his wife. I like to see, how does his personality kind of appear in that kind of scenario. That's kind of what I like to see. Third aspect of slice of life is, I think that this is one of my favorites, in that it gives you a chance to explore emotions that maybe in an adventure scenario you don't really have time to explore. Because now I'm all for an adventure that explores people emotionally, but there's only so much you can do depending on the scenario you put a character in. Like, do you want to explore what they want to do with their life? Yeah, you can explore that. But if they're in a scenario where they have to focus on either, you know, a ticking clock, or, you know, whatever the current stressor of the day is, they're not going to have a lot of time to really ponder, hey, when all this is over, what am I going to do? You might get a little bit of that in, like, what I call the downtime, which is some of my favorite aspects of fantasy, is when we have the downtime, you know, the gathering around the fire, all that stuff. But you don't get to spend a ton of time with it. So I like to do slice of life to kind of address that. Like, you know, okay, when all this is over, what am I going to do? You know, I've essentially made a life now of being a hero. I travel, I defeat bad guys. That's what I do. Now what do I do? When this is over, what am I going to do? And I think that's a fun way for characters to kind of delve into themselves and realize, what do they really want to do? Like, maybe they find out they're an explorer, that they may not like this life-threatening stuff, but they sure as hell like to explore the planet, and maybe that's what they want to do. So it's just kind of your chance to really play with that. And I think using a little bit of all of these things is really what makes slice of life interesting to me. So that's just kind of my take on it. I'd love to hear your guys' take, because like I said, this is all focused on the fantasy genre, but I am totally on board that you can have slice of life in pretty much any genre. Maybe not horror, but maybe so. I mean, I think there might be aspects you can do in horror. So let me know what you guys think. What is it about slice of life that you find interesting? Do you think it could work as an entire novel? Why or not? Why or why not? Let me know below. And as always, if you guys have comments or suggestions, also leave them below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you're new and you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that and ring the bell so you always know when I upload. My regular schedule, I usually do 2 a week. It's, like I said, it's been kind of off because of all the stuff with my husband, but I'm hoping to get back to that. So until next time, stay safe, guys, and have a good one.